My name is Officer Makai, and this is IUIC Tampa. And this class I've been wanting to bring out for a little while. I taught part one about 2 months ago, two and a half maybe. So I've been wanting to bring out part two of this class for some time now. And now we're getting the opportunity. So all praises to the Most High. All right. So the name of the class is Whose Land Is It Anyway? A History on Deportation, Part 2. Okay, so just as a recap for those of y'all who watched the first class we talked about how deportation is nothing new to our people. We've been deported since our first major captivity out of Egypt. So the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and so on and so forth. So we experience this repeatedly in the ancient world. First, it was Assyria with the northern kingdom. Then it was Babylon with the southern kingdom. All 12 tribes experienced some form of it. They were dispersed throughout the Persian-Median captivity, although there wasn't a specific deportation. The Greeks tried to deport us. We read about that in 2nd Maccabees. And then under Rome, we were deported multiple times, okay, culminating with 70 AD when we were totally removed out of the land for the majority of our people, okay? And then from there we know about us being scattered into all four corners of the earth as the scriptures indicate. But for this portion of the class, we're going to focus specifically on deportation in America, in Babylon the Great, okay? That's where most of us are familiar, and that's where a lot of real insidious history lies when it comes to the deportation of our people. So we're going to dive into it with the scriptures today, so come along for the ride, all right? First off, we're going to start with Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. Let's read that.
The book of Romans, chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning.
So we're going to dive into the scriptures and see what the things that were written aforetime to help us learn about the things that's happened here in Babylon the Great. Come on.
That we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope.
And these things are to give us comfort, because even though we have been removed into all four corners of the earth, we are still going to be the ones that are going to be redeemed by our Lord and Savior. So let's get the first scripture in the lesson. Let's start off with Lamentations chapter 1 and verse 1. Let's see what that's got on
The
there.
book of Lamentations, chapter 1 and verse 1. How doth the city sit solitary that was full of people? How is she become as a widow?
So this is talking about directly after 70 AD. She sits as a widow, right? The land of Jerusalem was completely desolate without her people, gone. The widow was talking about is us. Come on.
She that was great among the nations and princes among the provinces, how is she become tributary?
How is she become tributary or subject unto these other nations? Come on.
She weepeth sore in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers, she hath none to comfort her.
Because in every single one of these captivities, we've always dealt with the other gods. That's who the other lovers who are unable to comfort us. We've all, in all of these nations and all these captivities that have always done us ill, we've always worshiped their gods. So the oppressors' gods we worship, but they never were able to give us any comfort. Same thing is true here today. Come on.
All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They are become her enemies.
And we don't have any friends. The only friends that we can hope to have is those amongst our nation who are keeping God's commandments. Come on.
Judah is gone into captivity because of affliction, and because of great servitude. She dwelleth among the heathen.
So we, because of our removal into all nations of the earth, talks about Judah right here, the southern kingdom, we dwell among the heathen. Come on.
She findeth no rest. All her persecutors overtook her between the straits.
We've all been overtaken. Come on.
The ways of Zion do mourn, because none come to the solemn feast. All her gates are desolate.
And in our captivities, as we've been removed into all nations of the earth, we did not keep our feast days. We weren't keeping our feast days here in America at a point in time. But now guess what? We are here keeping the Feast of Tabernacles, not in this building, right? But in the wilderness. There's a national tabernacle. There's local tabernacles where all of us are getting together and returning to our nationality as it is written. Come on.
Her priests sigh. Her virgins are afflicted, and she is in bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
Her adversaries are the chief.
We are under subjection to the chief devil on this earth. Come on.
Her enemies prosper.
Uh-huh.
For the Lord hath afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions.
And that's why we suffer, because of our sins. That's why we got to come before the Lord, ask for forgiveness, and repent. Come on.
Her children are gone into captivity before the enemy.
We are gone into captivity before the enemy. And that's how we wound up here in America. Come on.
And from the daughter of Zion, all her beauty is departed.
Mm-hmm.
Her princes are become like harts that find no pasture. And they are gone without strength before the pursuer.
And we are gone but without strength before the pursuer. We don't have any capability of fighting against all the evil that's done unto us. So first I want to get this article just to kind of explain, give an update on where we are, because this all started as a response to, this class was born out of the response to what was going on over in LA with the ICE protests. So those are largely completed, but we're going to get some more understanding on that. Come on, bring that up. Read that for me, sir.
Pentagon ends deployment of 2,000 National Guard troops in Los Angeles.
Okay, scroll up.
The Pentagon said Tuesday it is ending the deployment of 2,000 National Guard troops in Los Angeles, accounting for nearly half of the soldiers sent to the city to deal with the protests over the Trump administration and immigration crackdown. Roughly 4,000 National Guard soldiers and 700 Marines have been in the city since early June. It was immediately clear what prompted the 60-day deployment to end suddenly, nor was it immediately clear how long the rest of the troops would stay in the region.
So basically, what Trump is doing with this National Guard being in LA is he's flying by the seat of his pants. He wants law and order. And I believe it's a setup for future actions against our people, which we're not going to speak on today. That's a different class. But he's setting up for something bigger. This is all part of a bigger plan. Trust and believe that. Come on.
In late June, the top military commander in charge of troops deployed to L.A. had asked Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth for 200 of them to be returned to wildfire fighting duty amid warnings from California government Gavin Newsom that the Guard was understaffed as California entered peak wildfire season.
Right, so he's saying we really need these things for wildfire season, which is coming up. Now, scroll up a little bit more. Scroll up, scroll up. We're not going to help raise money. Scroll up, scroll up. Scroll up, scroll up, scroll up. I just wanted a 1 point. Scroll up, scroll up. Keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Is that it on that? Scroll back up. I wanted, hold on. Scroll down just a little bit. Yes. That last little couple paragraphs. Scroll up a little bit more. Under the Amazon. Yep. Yep.
Following the Pentagon's decision Tuesday, Newsom said in a statement that the National Guard's deployment to Los Angeles County has pulled troops away from their families and civilian work to serve as political pawns for the president.
See, that's what I was just talking about. This is part of a larger plan for Donald Trump. Who knows what he's got planned? I think I have a good idea, but again, that's for another time. But even the wicked of our people are understanding that it's to serve as a political pawn for the president, this action. Come on.
He added that the remaining troops continue without a mission.
Without a mission.
Without direction.
Without direction.
And without any hopes of returning to help their communities.
And they are not going to go back to help their communities. Eventually, they're going to leave. But now, as it stands right now, there's about 300 troops remaining. Come on.
We call on Trump and the Department of Defense to end this theater and send everyone home now.
And they're asking for everybody to be sent home. Everybody go home, okay? This is not serving any real purpose. You're just trying to put on a show. That's what it's talking about, which says theater. Okay? Let's go to the next article. Reuters. Get a little bit more understanding on what had happened in the days following these raids, these ICE raids. Pull it up.
Immigration raids on California cannabis nurseries spark protests.
So on these California cannabis nurseries, there have been protests because ICE raids have been conducted on them. Come on.
Federal agents conducted immigration enforcement raids on Thursday on state-licensed marijuana nurseries in an agricultural region of coastal Southern California, where they were confronted by throngs of angry protesters. As word and video images of the raid spread on social media, dozens of migrant rights activists converged on the area in vehicles leading to face-offs with federal agents in the middle of rural roadways, according to the Santa Barbara Independent, Los Angeles Times, and other news media.
Is that it on that? Go ahead.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, accompanied by National Guard troops in military-style vehicles, turned up at 2 locations operated by Glass House Farms.
So this, again, is part of that theater that they were talking about. Why would you need a military to go in on a cannabis farm, right? Everybody there chilling. This isn't like it was run by the cartel. These are illegal immigrants that are trying to keep their head low, earn a living. Come on.
One in the Santa Barbara County town of Carpinteria, about 90 miles northwest of Los Angeles, and one in the Ventura County community of Camarillo, about 50 miles from L.A. Glass House Farms, which bills itself as one of the fastest growing vertically integrated cannabis companies in the U.S., said on X that its greenhouse sites were visited today by ICE officials, adding the company fully complied with agent search warrants, complied with agent search warrants, and will provide further updates if necessary.
So you show up with military style equipment, military vehicles, and all of that, just for them to go, we'll comply with whatever you need. We'll comply with whatever you need. So let's get some scriptures, all right, to deal with the deportation in America. Let's get 2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse 42.
It's the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse 42.
Because remember, we're going over how this has occurred in the past. Syria, Babylon, Rome, so on and so forth. So with America, it's different time, same thing. Come on.
2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse 42.
Come on.
And he said unto me, I will liken my judgment unto a ring.
So that ring is talking about how God's judgment is on a cycle. It's ever continuing. It's never ending. Come on.
Like as there is no slackness of the last, even so there is no swiftness of the first.
So you can't tell where a ring starts and stops, just like that judgment is going to continue on a cycle with the Lord. Let's get Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 1.
Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 1. So I returned and considered all the oppression that are done under the sun.
So this is this is Solomon speaking. And he said he considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun. And he said, read.
And behold, the tears of such as were oppressed.
We are the ones that are oppressed. We're reading about the oppression now. But we're reading about the oppression from back then in Jeremiah. I keep saying Jeremiah. I don't know why I keep doing that. We just read Lamentations. But in Solomon's time. He said he considered all the oppressions that are under the sun. Come on.
And they had no comforter.
There was no comforter on the people that were oppressed. Read.
And on the side of their oppressor, there was power.
But on the side of the oppressor, on the side of America, there is power. That's why you show up to a farm with a military force to enforce these laws, to be able to meet them against our people. There's no need for that. But in order to enforce these laws, to get us up out of here, which the land that they're on was originally inhabited by most of those people. California used to belong to Issachar, right? But in order to get them out of there, you got to show up with a military. Read.
But they had no comforter.
But we don't have a comforter right now, because remember what we read earlier in Lamentations. We read about how we were in sin. We are not getting heard by the Lord because of our sins. That's why we don't have any power in this kingdom right now. But when we turn to the Lord, that is our power. That is the power that we need to trust and rely on. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 22 and verse 13.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 22 and verse 13.
Uh-huh.
Come on. Woe unto him that buildeth his house by unrighteousness, and his chambers by wrong, that useth his neighbor's service without wages.
So they're getting paid, these workers, these undocumented workers, they're getting paid, but this whole thing is being built by unrighteousness. America was founded on unrighteousness. Damn. Free labor from the northern and southern kingdom of Israel. Read.
And giveth him not for his work.
Come on.
That saith, I will build me a wide house and large chambers, and cutteth him out windows, and it is sealed with cedar, and painted with vermilion.
And you see all of the wealth that has been accumulated in this land, in Babylon the Great. You see great structures. You see infrastructure in America that is amazing. And it got built off the backs of our hard labor. Come on.
Shalt thou reign, because thou closest thyself in cedar.
So the Lord is asking a question. Those of you who did this, are you going to continue to reign just because you built yourself in with nice houses? Read.
Did not thy father eat and drink, and do judgment and justice, and then it was well with him?
So in order for justice and judgment to go well with you, or in order for you to do well, you have to execute judgment and justice. These nations do not do that. We are the only nation on the earth that's going to provide justice and judgment for our people, but not here today. Okay, so I want to deal with something that goes back to the beginning of deportation in America. It goes into something called the doctrine of discovery. Okay, many of you have not heard of this term before, so let's pull that up. The doctrine of discovery. What is it? What is it, and where did it come from?
The doctrine of discovery, 1493.
Uh-huh.
The papal bull, Intheclassroom,
Uh-huh.
issued by Pope Alexander V on May 4th, 1493.
This is Pope Alexander VI, and it was done on 1493. So this particular pope, which some of us should be familiar with, Pope Alexander VI, on 1493, it issued this papal bull called Intheclassroom. Let's see what it had to do with. Come on.
Played a central role in the Spanish conquest of the New World.
So this was integral to the Spanish conquest of the New World, which is talking about the Americas. Read.
The document supported Spain's strategy to ensure its exclusive right to the lands discovered by Columbus the previous year.
So it talks about how Spain was supposed to be guaranteed rights to the lands that were discovered by Columbus. But wait a minute. There were already people there living on that land. So how did they have right to that land? It's all going to connect, because this was the basis for America to steal land from our people. So that way they could claim ownership of the land and say, now because this is mine, you have to get out. Watch, we're going to show you. Come on.
It established a demarcation line 100 leagues west of the Azores and Cape Verde Islands and assigned Spain the exclusive right to acquire territorial possessions and to trade in all lands west of the line.
So basically, it like you have your latitude and your longitude lines, right? So it said 100 leagues west of Cape Verde Islands, which is on the western side of Africa, right? Is everything west of that they were going to lay claim to. All the lands west of that line. Okay, come on.
All others were forbidden to approach the lands west of the line without special license from the rulers of Spain.
So not only that, the Pope said, based on this papal bull, that if you want to come and go west of that line, you got to get permission, special permission from Spain. Come on.
This effectively gave Spain a monopoly on the lands in the New World.
Come on.
The bull stated that any land not inhabited by Christians was available to be discovered.
You see that? It says any land not inhabited by Christians was available to be discovered. So you had to be a Christian in order for the land to count as being discovered. What? So unless, and that goes into a lot of the doctrines that you see today, right? When you read about the 3/5 compromise in the Constitution, that is part of what they dealt with. We were not considered human to them. We were not considered people that had agency, freedom, even though we had been living on this side of the earth for hundreds of years at this point in time. Actually, centuries. Read.
Claimed and exploited by Christian rulers and declared that the Catholic faith and the Christian religion be exalted and be everywhere increased and spread. That the health of souls and cared for, and that barbarous nations be overthrown and brought to the faith itself.
So you see what it calls the nations that it was taking lands from. Barbarous. We were considered barbarians to them. Meaning they didn't see us as human, just like what we talked about with the 3/5 compromise. It's all the same thing. These people have had this in their mind from the beginning. Read.
This doctrine of discovery became the basis of all European claims in the Americas, as well as the foundation for the United States Western expansion.
You see that? It says this doctrine of discovery became the basis. So this became the underlying thing that allowed all thought of the Europeans on that side to come and say, we are going to lay claim to this land. And not only that, it became the basis of law here in the United States, in Babylon the Great. Come on.
In the U.S. Supreme Court, in the 1823 case, Johnson versus McIntosh, Chief Justice John Marshall's opinion in the unanimous decision held that the principle of discovery gave European nations an absolute right to the New World lands.
So it says this principle that we made up out of thin air, that only Christians were able to discover anything, allowed us to establish land rights in the New World. That's what he's saying. So this was used to justify European land claims in the America and totally disregard indigenous sovereignty. What? Nothing about what the Indians had done here previously allowed them to establish any sort of agency or sovereignty on this land, because the Europeans deemed it so from the other side of the world. And it was sponsored by the Christian church. Because remember, this was all part of a papal bull. This is what started this whole thing. Inter caetera from Pope Alexander VI. Is that it on that, in essence?
In essence, American Indians had only a right of occupancy, which could be abolished.
So even though the ancestors of the Northern Kingdom had been here for centuries, they had been here forever, not forever, but it's since they landed here, they had been here doing their own thing, building their own communities, establishing their own nations and things of that nature. It said the only thing they had a right to on this side was occupancy when those strangers came over. That's how evil this man is. Let's get Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 30. But there is a reason behind that. It's because, again, like we read earlier, we set this whole class up with when we read in Jeremiah, when we read in Lamentations about our sin. It's our sin that allowed this to go down. Come on.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 30.
Uh-huh.
Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her.
So even though that did happen during this time as well, this is not the focus of the lesson. But it did happen, and it's part of the curses. Come on.
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
So the northern kingdom at this point in time had been building. They had been building and building and building. When you look at some of the ancient cities that we inhabited on this side of the earth, they were massive. And they were very advanced. There, to this day, Esau cannot tell you how some of the cities on this side of the earth were built. But those same places that they built, God said that we would not be able to dwell in them forever. Why? Read.
Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
So even with that, your lands that you lay claim to, where you garden, where you planted, where you sowed your seed, you were not going to be able to enjoy those things. Why? Because of our sins. Come on.
Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them.
So that goes into our cattle being taken away. All of our livestock being taken away because of these European conquerors who came with the understanding that only Christians can establish land rights. So what you got is mine. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is mine. Read.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given into another people.
And then eventually it went on to being this. Your sons and daughters shall be given unto another people. Come on.
And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thine hand.
And you know that's true, and you know that these curses apply to us because, remember, at one point in time, it was just Northern Kingdom. And when we're talking about the Americas, we're talking about Gad, we're talking about Reuben, and we're talking about Issachar. Those are the three tribes that mainly inherited and inhabited what we now know today as the United States of America, or Babylon the Great. But when you see how much land that they own today, it's basically none. They're placed in small little reservations, Gad and some of Reuben. They're placed in little small tiny reservations that's less than a fraction of a percent of what they were originally even agreed to have back when they first made treaties with Esau when he came over here. After being killed, after signing treaties, after being poisoned, after being diseased by this white man. So that goes to show you that there was no might in the hands of our people when it came to trying to fight back against what we see now. Come on.
The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up.
So we didn't know this nation at this time. This is called colonialism. This doctrine of discovery was an example of that. Come on.
And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
The oppression started with Inter Caetera through the Catholic Church, through Pope Alexander VI. Come on.
So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see.
And just like how our people were mad then at the sight of this oppression, at the losing of their lands, at the taking of their property rights, we're mad today. That's why these protests are going on in LA, because just how it was back then is the same thing now. We are continually experiencing these curses. All right? So let's talk about something called the First Virginia Charter. This is another layer on how America got to this point, on how they were able to come over, inhabit a land that didn't belong to them, establish property rights, and then now that I own the land, I could move you out. Come on.
First Virginia Charter. The First Virginia Charter, also known as the Charter of 1606, is a document from King James I of England to the Virginia Company assigning land rights to colonists for the creation of a settlement which could be used as a base to export commodities to Great Britain and create a buffer preventing total Spanish control of the North and South American coast.
All right, so we went from 1493, now we jumped up to 1606. Okay, this is under King James I of England. So this was designed to fight against Spanish control over here, because remember, the Spanish got over here first, right? They established their areas that they wanted to control and dominate. Now the English are trying to come against that. Come on.
The land is described as coastal Virginia and the islands near to the coast and stretches from present-day South Carolina to present-day Maine. The patch of land itself will remain the property of the king, with the London Company and the Plymouth Company, the two divisions of the Virginia Company, as the king's tenants and the settlers as subtenants.
You see that? How is the king gonna own something he ain't never stepped foot on? He ain't never go to this side of the earth, but yet and still he gonna own it. That's incredible. Come on.
The colony's governor at first consisted of a council residing in London. The document designated the London Company as responsible for financing the project, which included recruiting settlers and also provided for their transport and supplies.
All right, so this is another layer, and unfortunately, I have to admit, this King James is our King James. This is our King James, unfortunately. Okay, but he was part of setting up for the doctrine that we're going to continue to see, the thread of what happened in the Americas. Okay, read down purpose of the charter.
Purpose of the charter. The charter favored the king's interests. The king did not invest, but was entitled to 20% of profit. The charter also granted those born in the colonies all the rights of English citizens elsewhere, and they are compensated and protected in case they were robbed or spoiled by anyone. The grant of the charter was accompanied by the following words of the king: "We greatly commending and graciously accepting of the desires for the furtherance of so noble of a work, which may, by the providence of Almighty God, hereafter tend to the glory of his divine majesty, and propagating of Christian religion to such people as yet live in darkness and miserable ignorance of the true knowledge and worship of God."
So you see this again, just like how you had with Pope Alexander VI and that papal bull Intheclassroom. You see again that this is rooted in what? In Christianity. They're saying that because we need to spread this gospel, we have the ability to do this stuff. God is giving us this divine instruction. Come on.
What the hell is this?
And may in time bring the infidels and savages living in those parts to human civility.
Oh, remember, they were called savages now, infidels, and remember, before they were called barbarians.
Bruh.
Read.
And to a settled and quiet government, do by these our letters, patents, graciously accept of and agree to their humble and well-intended desires.
And that's a lie. There's no well-intended desire here whatsoever. Let's get that encyclopedia article.
Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. I want you to know that you can view all our Sabbath classes live on IUIC TV. That's right, I said on IUIC TV. Download the app today. Shalom.
Yep. This is the Virginia Charter. This is the language from the Virginia Charter. We're going to read section 1 and section 3.
James, by the grace of God, King of England, Scotland, France, and Ireland, defender of the faith. Whereas our loving and well-disposed subjects, Sir Thomas Gates and Sir George Somers, knights, Richard Hakluyt, clerk prebendary of Westminster, and Edward Maria Wingfield, Thomas Hanham, and Raleigh Gilbert, Esquires, William Parker, and George Popham, gentlemen, and divers others of our loving subjects, have been humble suitors unto us, that we would vouchsafe unto them our license, to make habitation, plantation, and to deduce a colony of sundry of our people, into that part of America commonly called Virginia, and other parts and territories in America, either appertaining unto us, or which are not now actually possessed by any.
Hold up a little bit. No. Go. I want you to keep. Yeah, there we go. Read that last part again. Which are not now actually what?
Or which are not now actually possessed by any.
Any what? Keep reading.
Any Christian prince or people.
Read it. You see that? It's talking about this is just it's so frustrating. So he's saying that we are trying to establish a colony that is possessed by Christians.
What?
We want all of the land over there, which we discovered, right? Even though there were people over here already, we want them inhabited by Christians. That's what it's talking about. Come on.
Christian prince or people situate, lying, and being all along the seacoast, between 4 and 30 degrees of northerly latitude from the equinoctial line, and 5 and 40 degrees of the same latitude, and in the mainland between the same 4 and 30 and 5 and 40 degrees, and the islands thereunto adjacent, or within 100 miles of the coast thereof.
All right, skip to section 3. Scroll down. There we go. We greatly
commending and graciously accepting of their desires for the furtherance of so noble a work, which may, by the providence of Almighty God, hereafter tend to the glory of his divine majesty, and propagating of Christian religion to such people as yet live in darkness and miserable ignorance of the true knowledge and worship of God, and may in time bring the infidels and savages living in those parts to human civility, and to a settled and quiet government. Do by these our letters, patents, graciously accept of and agree to their humble and well-intended desires.
All right, so that's the same thing that we read in the Wikipedia article. So this reaffirmed the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery started with Spain and the Catholic Church. Now the British are using this exact same doctrine to be able to push their version of the same thing. So remember, we have so far the doctrine of discovery through Inter, which was founded at that point in time in 1493. Then we had the first Virginia Charter with King James I, our brother, and 1606. In 1606. Now we're going to jump ahead in time again to a famous court case that was already mentioned earlier when we were reading about the doctrine of discovery, Johnson v. McIntosh. Johnson v. McIntosh, that happened in the Marshall Court in 1823. Let's get that article.
Johnson v. McIntosh, 200 years of legal misery for Native people.
So you see that already by the title, 200 years of legal misery for Native people. What that should say is 200 years of legal misery for the northern kingdom of Israel. Read.
The landmark, 1823. Supreme Court case enshrined the doctrine of discovery in U.S. law.
You see that? So it says this Supreme Court case enshrined or solidified the doctrine of discovery, which we already read about into U.S. law. Read.
setting a precedent that has undermined tribal sovereignty ever since.
Read. Scroll down. Read that.
If Johnson versus McIntosh isn't one of the first cases presented on the first day of law school everywhere in the United States, Michael Corey F. Hinton would be surprised and likely sorely disappointed. The landmark case decided 200 years ago this month by the U.S. Supreme Court set in motion land use laws for Indian country that eventually led to widespread injustices and land grabs with egregious implications for tribal self-determination. It also enshrined the doctrine of discovery, a political and legal concept based on a series of 15th century declarations from popes as a valid basis for federal law.
Keep reading.
The Vatican denounced the doctrine of discovery on Thursday. Pawnee, author and lawyer Walter R. Echo Hawk called it one of the 10 worst Indian law cases ever decided. In his 2010 nonfiction book, In the Courts of the Conqueror, it might actually be one of the 10 worst cases ever decided by the Supreme Court.
So it not only is he saying that this might be the 10 worst Indian law cases ever decided, but also that it might be one of the 10 worst cases ever decided of all time in the Supreme Court. Okay, read.
Hinton, an attorney with the Drummond Woodson law firm in Portland, Maine, which represents a number of tribal nations, told ICT he considers the decision the center of how U.S. property law developed and the foundation of all American law.
So that's exactly what it is. I want to let y'all in on a little something. I took a property law class back in the day, and in my book, you know how you have the forewords where you have maybe like a quote to somebody or for somebody, dedicated to somebody. You had that. And then right underneath that in my book, I wish I still had the picture. The property law textbook said finders, keepers, losers, weepers. And then the very first case was that case. Johnson v. McIntosh. Showing you that that's exactly what it was. Man, I wish I had that picture. It's exactly what it was based off of. The doctrine of discovery, which basically allowed them to steal the land based on the understanding that those savages, the northern kingdom of Israel, who was living here as the Pawnees, the Chippewa, as Blackfoot Indians at the time, that nation of people, our people, they were able to take the land away from them in place of the true understanding of people who were they're going to be able to deal with the property correctly. Christians. That's what it's talking about. All right, we could drop this. Let's get Micah, chapter 2 and verse 1.
The book of Micah, chapter 2 and verse 1.
Come on.
Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds.
So the Bible says that woe or destruction to those that work iniquity. Come on.
When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence.
And they take them by violence. When even though it's not physical violence, it is a form of violence when you decide to take somebody's house just because they're not the same religion as you.
The hell is this?
It's the same sort of thing that you see right now going on in Gaza with the Israelis, the small hats. They're doing the same thing. We seen videos where they're running inside people's houses and say, well, this is mine.
What?
I don't need to have a reason why I'm doing this other than this land supposedly belongs to me and my ancestors, even though that's a lie. Right? But because of the lie, they're emboldened to do this thing. That's how you know who we're dealing with. That's how you know these are the exact same people. It's the same thing repeatedly. That's what we talked about earlier. God's judgment is on a ring. Read on.
And houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage.
Even a man and his heritage. Get that in Habakkuk chapter 1 and verse 4. This wasn't in my notes, but we're going to touch on it. Habakkuk chapter 1 and verse 4.
Habakkuk chapter 1 and verse 4. Therefore the law is slacked, and judgment doth never go forth. For the wicked doth compass about the righteous. Therefore, wrong judgment proceeded.
Wrong judgment proceeded. Remember, it's evil to take away a man's living in his heritage. We just read in Micah. It's the same thing that's talking about right here. Wrong judgment proceeded. These nations, even though they're using their laws to be able to back up what they're saying, these laws are based on theft. These laws are based on lies. These laws are based on them viewing themselves as greater than us. Get that in Psalm chapter 94 and verse 20 as well. It says all the same thing on repeat on us because we did not keep God's commandments. But you see it that Esau repeatedly, again and again and again, has used their doctrines to perpetuate evil against our people. And it doesn't matter that it's made up, because as long as they have the power that Solomon talked about, we don't have anything. We don't have any ability to do anything against it in this time. We got to serve out our punishment and keep these laws, but still understand who our enemy is. Come on.
The book of Psalms chapter 94 and verse 20. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law?
They frame mischief by a law. So I'm going to steal your land because I'm going to write it into law. That's what they do. That's what they do. Okay? Now, we're going to jump up. There's another point in time. So we were in 1823 with Johnson v. McIntosh, Supreme Court decision under the Marshall Court. Now we're going to jump to 1887 with the Dawes Act. The Dawes Act. Remember, we are laying a foundation of how we see property rights being taken little by little from the Northern Kingdom who was living here at the time, and then leading up to the deportation of our people today. Come on, give me that. Yep.
Land tenure history. Key factors that have shaped U.S. Indian policy and led to the fractured state of Indian land tenure in Indian country today include countless federal laws and legislative acts. Perhaps the single most devastating federal policy was the General Allotment Act of 1887, also called the Dawes Act, after Senator Henry Dawes, the act's lead proponent. History allotment. The U.S. federal government began the policy of allotting Indian land as early as 1798.
So the question becomes, who are they allotting land to? I bet you could guess it's not to our people. Come on.
What? Several treaties with the Indian tribes included provisions that stated land would be divided among their individual members. After 1871, however, Congress declared that no further treaties would be made, and all future dealings with Indians would be conducted through legislation.
So they instead of going and doing these treaties, which they broke anyway, okay, Esau created over 100 treaties with the Gadite and Reuben tribes over here in the Americas. Over 100. They broke all of them. So in 1871, they were like, you know what? We tired of pretending. We're not going to deal with you guys anymore through treaties because we're not sticking to them anyway. We're going to just legislate our ability to take your land from you.
The hell is this?
Read.
Why allotment? There were several reasons that allotment proponents supported the policy. First, many of them considered the Indian way of life and collective use of land to be a communistic and backward.
You see that? So not only were we savages, not only were we barbarians, this is now their use of the land was communistic and backwards, according to Esau. But Esau was the one that had to be shown how to farm and take care of the land in the first place. So how is it that it becomes now communistic and backwards? That's evil. Come on.
They also saw the individual ownership of private property as an essential part of civilization, that would give Indian people a reason to stay in one place, cultivate land, disregard the cohesiveness of the tribe, and adopt the habits, practices, and interests of the American settler population.
So they're only interested in helping the American settlers, the colonialists. Come on.
Furthermore, many thought that Indian people had too much land.
They had too much land. The land that they had already had when you got here. They had too much of it. So now, me as a stranger, I get to come into your house and go, you know, you got too much space and I don't like that. I'm going to take that away from you because I can. Come on.
What? And they were eager to see the Indian lands opened up for settlement, as well as for railroads, mining, forestry, and other industries.
They only wanted to do that so they could help. They could continue to destroy the earth, like I say in Revelation. Them that hurt the earth. Come on.
Damn.
General Allotment Act of 1887.
So there was a little bit background. This is the General Allotment Act, or the Dawes Act of 1887. Read that.
The allotment advocates eventually succeeded in convincing the federal government to adopt the policy nationally. In 1887, Congress passed the General Allotment Act, which authorized the president, at the time Grover Cleveland, to survey Indian tribal land and divide the area into allotments for individual Indians and families.
So even though it says that it's allotting them land, really it's taking away the land from them. Come on.
The Allotment Act, also known as the Dawes Act, named for Senator Henry Dawes of Massachusetts, the act lead proponent, was applied to reservations whenever, in the president's opinion, it was advantageous for particular Indian nations.
So not according to the opinion of the people you were taking land away from. It was the president's opinion, so that means it was arbitrary. Whatever he felt like, you know what? I think it's better for you to have only this amount of land because you've got too much.
The hell is this?
Meaning there were some resources on the land that they wanted. There was some mining that they wanted to do. They wanted to build a railroad. Nah, you Indian people, you got too much land over there.
What?
I'm going to move you over here. Read.
Members of the selected tribe or reservation were either given permission to select pieces of land.
They were given, look, this is already your land. You given permission to have only certain parts of it. You know what? You used to have 100 acres of land, but I'm only going to give you 1 acre. Pick whatever acre you want.
What?
But you can't have that part. You can't have this part because we're going to build a railroad. We got the mine over there. We have to take the trees from over here. Read.
Usually around 40 to 160 acres in size, for themselves and their children, or the tracts were assigned by the agency superintendent. If the amount of reservation land exceeded the amount needed for allotment.
Now again, this was determined by the people who are stealing the land from our people. Read.
The federal government could negotiate to purchase the land from the tribes and sell it to non-Indian settlers.
So then I'm going to pay you pennies on the dollar for the land and sell it to somebody else.
What?
Come on.
As a result, 60 million acres.
Read that again. How many?
60 million acres.
60 million acres were stolen from the natives. Come on.
Were either seceded outright or sold to the government for non-Indian homesteaders and corporations as surplus land.
Surplus meaning overabundance. So the Indians had 60 million acres of land that they said, you got too much of this.
The hell is this?
That is evil as hell. Read.
Although the General Allotment Act was the first major piece of legislation.
Because remember, before this, they were doing treaties. There were no legislation. They were doing individual treaties with individual tribes. They said, nah, we done with that. We just go take it. Read.
Designed to allot Indian reservations across the U.S., many tribes were allotted under special legislation that was unique to their tribe or reservation. These acts usually are similar to the General Allotment Act, but often contain special provisions.
All right. So Oh my God, the damn devil. And man, we running up on top, so we got to speed through these next couple parts. Let's get Isaiah chapter 10 verse 1. Let's get that.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 10 and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees.
So we just seen another unrighteous decree. Remember, we had initially starting out, we had the Doctrine of Discovery, we had the First Virginia Charter, we had Johnson v. McIntosh. Now we had the Dawes Act. These are repeated offenses by our enemies. Read.
And that right grievousness which they have prescribed.
They prescribed to take away 60 million acres from our people. Read.
To turn aside the needy from judgment.
Uh-huh.
And to take away the right from the poor of my people.
It was our right to that land. It was our right to this side of the earth. Arsareth was a special land for our people, but they taken it away. 60 million acres. Read.
That widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless.
Read.
And what will ye do in the day of visitation, and in the desolation which shall come from far? To whom will ye flee for help, and where will ye leave your glory?
So, hey, when that judgment comes, God is going to jack Esau up. Let's get Lamentations 5 and 1. Lamentations chapter 5 verse 1. We're going to have to skip a couple scripts. Come on.
Lamentations chapter 5 and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
Come on. Remember, O Lord, what is come upon us. Consider and behold our reproach. Our inheritance is turned to strangers.
You see that? Again, that number just keeps just ringing off in my mind. 60 million acres. Read.
Our houses to aliens.
And these people are the real aliens. Read.
We are orphans and fatherless. Our mothers are as widows.
Come on.
We have drunken our water for money. Our wood is sold unto us. Our necks are under persecution. We labor and have no rest.
We labor and have no rest. Why? Because our lands kept getting taken from us again and again and again and again. Because remember, at this point in time, we had already had other provisions taking land away from the Native Americans, the Gadites, the Reubenites, Issachar. We already had these things happening. So that 60 million acres was only what was left over, and they weren't done yet. That's just one provision that took that amount of land. But they kept going. They kept going. Let's get the next thing. Everybody knows about this. It's called Manifest Destiny, or at least you should. You should know about this. Manifest Destiny. Let's get that real quick.
Manifest destiny was a 19th century belief in the United States that it was destined to expand its territory and spread its values across North America. Coined in 1845 by journalist John O'Sullivan, who argued that it was America's God-given mission to spread its influence and democratic ideals. Manifest destiny was used to justify territorial expansion.
There they go lying on God again. Go back a little bit. Go back a little bit. They lying on God again.
What?
Read.
And democratic
a little bit back, a little bit more. God given. There we go. A little bit before that.
Who argued
there you go.
that it was a military and spread its values across North America. Coined in 1845 by journalist John O'Sullivan, who argued that it was America's God-given mission to spread its influence and democratic ideals.
To steal
Manifest
and
destiny
kill.
was used to justify territorial expansion, particularly the annexation of Texas and the Mexican-American War. Fueled by a combination of economic, political, and religious motives, as well as a sense of American exceptionalism, Manifest Destiny played a major role in the settlement and development of the American West. Manifest Destiny also established a national justification for imperialism and the exploitation of Native American lands, which has had a profound impact on American history and continues to shape the country's cultural identity today.
Did you know that the idea of manifest...
All right, yep. Play the next one. Play the next one.
I went to Mexico without being invited or allowed,
pause.
and I took a job.
Real quick, disclaimer. I used this video before he got shot. Okay, I found this video before this man got hit in the neck. Okay, so that's just a coincidence, but maybe not. Let's go back.
I went to Mexico without being invited or allowed, and I took a job, and the Mexican government found out. What would the Mexican government do to me?
I'm not sure.
They would send me back to America.
So FDR comes in and he starts passing a bunch of executive orders. And one of those executive orders was to get more people involved in the defense industries of the government because they are anticipating a war. Who is the war they're anticipating with?
Like Axis powers, Germany?
Yeah, the Nazis are starting to grow, and in order to be ready, it's not really helpful to like racially segregate, kind of need more people on board. So start hiring federal programs without discrimination. So they start hiring black people. That meant that lots of African Americans are moving away from the South and towards the industrial North. But because they're exiting the South, that kind of leaves behind a gap. We still need agriculture. We still need farm labor. We still need food. But now there's a shortage of labor. White farmers see a lot of the harvesting work as like grunt work. They're not going to go in the fields and start picking all this shit themselves. So now they start pressuring the government that, like, if we don't get a fix, if the government is not going to fix our situation and get more hands down here, we're not doing this shit at all. Okay? What do you think the government's solution to that was? Use your racism.
Immigration?
Immigration from where?
Like Mexico?
There you go. Okay, because it's the grunt work. Okay, we're not going to try to like create a government bill to get more white people to start staying out in the sun all day, picking all this shit and harvesting it when Negroes have been doing that for hundreds of years. So the government in 1942, all the way through to 1964, they passed what's called the Bracero program that will recruit Mexican farm workers into the U.S. But then there's lots of people who aren't getting these opportunities, and they really want them. So what do? Maybe you just go anyway. Let's be real. If you show up to a farm and then you go, hey, I didn't get into the Bracero program, but I can still work if you're willing to pay me, it's still extra help. So now the creation of the Bracero program triggers quote unquote illegal immigration. At this particular point in time, is anybody trying to deport them? No. No one cares, because we need that help. And at least we don't have to do that work because they can do it.
Manifest
All right.
Destiny
All
was a
right.
19th
So you see, America created their own crisis when it comes to illegal immigration, okay? We started off with Manifest Destiny where they took the land, and after they took the land, then they want to go, well, we need help farming all this land we took. Let's bring in some people from Mexico to do it, okay? Real quick, let's get Psalms chapter 50 and verse 16, because remember, the going back to the Manifest Destiny portion, they used God to try to establish their rights to doing what they did over on this side. Give me
hell
that
is
con-
this?
Psalms chapter 50 and verse 16. Come on. But unto the wicked God saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes? Of that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth.
So they did this as Jews and as Christians, but we talking about the Christians who did that. And God said, keep my name out your mouth. Come on.
Seeing thou hatest instruction and castest my words behind thee.
They hate instruction because even though they're using God as a mascot, and it wasn't our God, it wasn't the God of the Bible, but they used the Bible, they used Christianity to try to say that this is what God has ordained for them. They did that, and read.
When thou sawest a thief, then thou consentest with him.
And they were the thief, and they consent with one another. Okay, I see Spain doing that. Oh yeah, man, that's great. The doctrine of discovery. I'm gonna make my law. I'm gonna do that. Oh, now we got Manifest Destiny, and then we got the Bracero program. Come on.
And hast been partaker with adulterers. Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue frameth deceit.
The lie. They continue to lie about what the need for stealing land is. Read.
The hell is this?
Thou sittest and speakest against thy brother. Thou slanderest thine own mother's son.
Come on.
These things hast thou done, and I kept silent.
God is on hush mode right now for the moments. Read.
Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself.
And because he's holding his peace, you think that he's on your side. That's why you have such boldness to be able to say, this is our God-given right. Come on.
But I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes.
But God is setting us in order right now to uncover the lies, to show who you are, the devil the Bible speaks of, and he is going to put us in order before your face, and there's nothing you can do about it. Okay? Give me Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4. We're going to read that real quick, and then we're going to get a little bit more understanding on that Bracero program, and then I got one more thing, and then we go close out. We running short on time.
The book of Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4.
Uh-huh.
Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him.
So Esau's soul is not upright. That's why they continue to lie. That's why they continue to make up excuses. That's why they continue to steal from our people. Come on.
But the just shall live by his faith.
Uh-huh.
Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home.
He doesn't stay at home. He can't stay where he at. He got to go come to your home. Read.
Who enlargeth his desire as hell.
And he enlarges his desire as hell because he destroys everything he touches. He can't just take the land and deal with it the same way it was dealt with before, because apparently that was too communistic. You can't, you live it too close together as a family unit, as a tribe, as how the Northern Kingdom tribes is doing it. I can't do that. I have to have skyscrapers. I have to have factories. I have to have railroads. I have to destroy the land. Come on.
And is as death.
Uh-huh.
And cannot be satisfied.
Read.
But gathereth unto himself all nations, and heapeth unto himself all people.
And no matter where he goes, this is his pattern, his practice. Read.
Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his.
So eventually the nations are going to come against this Esau, this devil, and say, woe, destruction to you that increaseth that is not yours. 60 million acres worth of not yours. And that's just at one period of time, and that's just here in Babylon the Great. What about in South America? What about in Africa? What about in India? What about in China? What about in Asia? You did it all over the world. Australia, come on.
How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay.
And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. All right, let's get that Wikipedia article on the Bracero program just to explain it real quick. That video did a good job. We just want to get a little bit more understanding. Yep, read that.
Bracero program. The Bracero program, from the Spanish term bracero, manual laborer, or one who works using his arms, was a temporary labor initiative between the United States and Mexico.
Right, because brazos is arms. Bracero, one that works with his arms. Brazos is arms in Spanish. Come on.
That allowed Mexican workers to be employed in the U.S. agricultural and railroad industries from 1942 to 1964.
Read down origins and purpose.
Origins and purpose. The program, which was designed to fill agriculture shortages during World War II, offered employment contracts to 4.6 million braceros in 24 U.S. states. It was the largest guest worker program in the U.S. history.
So you see, they didn't want to give them citizenship, but you go work over here. So you become what they called a guest worker. Read. What you think them people did? You think they left? No, they stayed here. Read.
The program was the result of a series of laws and diplomatic agreements initiated on August 4th, 1942, when the United States signed the Mexican Farm Labor Agreement with Mexico. The program was jointly managed by the U.S. State Department of Labor, and the Immigration and Naturalization Services, INS. Under the agreement, braceros were promised fair treatment, including adequate living conditions, shelter, food, sanitation, a minimum wage of 30 cents per hour, protection from being drafted into military service, a requirement that a portion of their wages be saved in accounts in Mexico.
Because even today, a lot of our Northern Kingdom brothers, when they come here, they earn wages, they send it back home. Come on.
Workers were also legally protected against discrimination, including being excluded from white-only areas. The program also allowed the importation of contract laborers from Guam as a temporary measure during the early phases of World War II.
Right, because the same sort of thing happened, but they happened in factories as well during World War II. That's why women had to go to work and all sort of things, okay? We ain't got time to read the rest on that. Read that in your spare time. The Bracero program. The Bracero program. Amazing, okay? So, get me that article about today. Today. Let's get that article. Read that. The New York Times article.
Growth in deportations. Deportations under the Obama administration are on track to hit 2 million by the end of this year. Nearly the same number of deportations from the United States between 1892 and 1997.
All right. So I wanted to point this out because of the fact that Obama's nickname was the deporter in chief. He had deported more people to this day. To this day, he has deported more people than any president in American history. That includes Donald Trump. So those of y'all who are mad at Donald Trump about this deportation thing, he still ain't done it more than your beloved President Barack Obama. He deported more people during his presidency than from 1892 to 1997. Damn. That's over 100 years worth of deportations that Obama was like, I got you.
The hell is this?
You understand? That is incredible. Okay? So now let's get Acts as we close on out here. Acts chapter 3 and verse 20.
The book of Acts, chapter 3 and verse 20.
Come
on. And he shall send Jesus Christ, which before was preached unto you, whom the heaven must receive until the times of restitution of all things.
So we won't get restitution here in America. We won't be restored for what was taken from us. That 60 million acres, all of the lands of the Northern Kingdom, our kingdom over there in Israel where they fighting over right now, we won't receive restitution from being deported century after century, captivity after captivity by all nations of the earth. We will not receive that yet. Come on.
Which God hath spoken by the mouth of all his holy prophets since the world began.
But trust and believe that as at the end, when Christ is set up as our king and has that which has been spoken of since the beginning of time, we will receive the restitution of all that we've lost. All of we lost. Okay? Let's get Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 6.
Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 6.
Come
on. Flee out of the midst of Babylon.
So it's the Bible says, flee Babylon. Flee Babylon. We're not supposed to think that here's where we're going to get our kingdom and our riches and our glory. We're not going to be prosperous here. Not the same way that we're going to be prosperous in the kingdom. We shouldn't be seeking for that. We should flee Babylon. And it's not talking about a physical fleeing. Why? Because read on.
And deliver every man his soul.
You better deliver your soul here in Babylon, not your body. It's talking about your soul. So you need to keep God's commandments. Do what we refuse to do while we've got ourselves in this position in the first place. Flee so that your soul may be preserved. So that these things that we see it, these oppressions can stop, that we may receive the restitution of all things. Come on.
Be not cut off in her iniquity.
Don't be cut off just like Babylon is going to be cut off. Don't be a part of this system. Don't try and fight for something that was taken away from you that you never going to get back. Read.
For this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense.
For all the evil that we just discussed here in Babylon the Great. From the beginning, from the time that they landed on the shores of America with Christopher Columbus, from that time, we are going to see the judgment from the Lord But don't seek to fight for those things here today. This class is for you, brothers and sisters, that are fighting against these deportations. It's for a reason that the Lord is having this happen to us. And God is going to judge America for these things in these last days. Yeah. Let's get Revelation chapter 18 and verse 4.
Revelations chapter 18 and verse 4.
Uh-huh.
And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people.
Come out of Babylon." Remember, we just read that in Jeremiah. Come out of her. Deliver your soul. Read.
That ye be not partakers of her sin.
We should not be partaking in the sins, because you're willing to fight against ICE, but are you willing to fight against your sin? Are you willing to fight against the things that's keeping you from the kingdom? That's what you should be fighting against. That's what your energy should be toward. Yeah. So despite the fact that we're getting deported and it's evil, we should still be fighting for God and his laws. We should not be fighting for the lands that we have here. This is just temporary. We are supposed to be fighting for what's right, true, just, God's laws. Come on.
And that ye receive not of her plagues.
Otherwise, we are going to be on the receiving end of the plagues that Babylon is going to get as well. If you want to be saved from that, if you want to be spared from that, you're not going to continue to try and fight for what you don't have in this country. Yeah. Last verse. Woo. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 14.
Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 14.
Uh-huh.
Come on. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country.
We seek a country. We seek refuge. We seek peace and safety. We're not going to get that here. This is not the land where we're going to receive those things. This is where we are carrying out our punishment. We are on a big prison. That's what America is. Every place where we're captive at, we're all prisoners of these captivities where we are. Read.
And truly, if they had been mindful of that country,
if we had been mindful of our true land, our true homeland, if we had been mindful of that from the beginning, read,
from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned.
We will have an opportunity to return, but only if we keep God's commandments. That's when we'll have safety, comfort, where we're going to not have to worry about being deported, about having to worry about having our homes taken away from us, about getting allotted land. Here, you can have a little bit of what is yours.
The hell is
Read.
this?
But now they desire a better country.
We desire a better country now. Come on.
That is an heavenly.
We desire the kingdom from heaven. Come on.
Wherefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city.
And he has prepared that city for us, but only to those who are prepared for it. All right? And with that, family, that'll conclude the class. But before you log off, make sure, right here, make sure you donate to the Booster Club so we can go and teach this gospel to all of our people that have been downtrodden and oppressed in America and abroad.
What is a nation?
Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you.